Hello and welcome everybody to today's ResNexus webinar. This is from first campsite to fully booked, launching a successful campground with ResNexus and Hipcamp. And this is co-produced with Hostel Cubed. We've got the co-founders Jeff and Doug here on there from Hostel Cubed, a glamping unit solution. So I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves in greater depth. We also have David Mayfield, the vice or the forgive me, hospitality business coach expert from ResNexus. And we also have Peter Pensati from Paradise Shores Campground and Christian Vasson from Hipcamp. Uh, but I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves in greater detail. I am going to launch a poll. We'd like to know more about how we can help your business and how we can provide greater assistance for you or help drive the conversation. So I'll launch that here in just a moment. So go ahead and fill that out as you have time. And then if you do have any questions, you can, of course, put them into the Q&A button on the bottom. If you type any questions there, we'll make sure to try and get to those towards the end of the discussion. I think that covers pretty much anything or everything. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Jeff. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gavin. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, for wherever you're viewing. Gavin, why don't you go ahead and fire up the poll to get things started as we go through here? So on your screen, everyone should have a couple questions pulled. This helps us set some foundational information for not only today's conversation, but also future webinars coming up as we go here. So really appreciate everyone taking a moment there. As Gavin said, my name is Jeff Mano. I'm partner in Hostel Cube, joined by Doug Higgins as well. We are co-producers here with ResNexus and Hipcamp on today's webinar. I'll be soon passing around the mic to introduce everyone, but let's just quick set a foundation for why we're here. Today is really part of our ongoing webinar series. We today look at how to use leading technologies to bring your new venture to life and then fuel the pump to enhance your brand reputation and drive sales successfully. Today, we're joined by David Mayfield and Kristen Vasson. David is partner of ResNexus and Kristen, head of partnerships at Hipcamp. And our real special guest is Peter Pensati, who you'll hear a lot of today about his origin story, a lot of the challenges, the blood, sweat, and tears that he's poured into his campgrounds, but turned that into a three-property, multi-state success story. Peter is not just a multi-decade operator, but he's truly that grassroots story that I think a lot of you will resonate with today. So as we get into it, let me take a quick introduction. My name is Jeff Mano, and I'm joined by Doug. We're partners, of Hostel Cubed. At Hostel Cubed, we are developers of not only glamping ventures, but also a proprietary modular accommodations. It's our mission to make more great places in nature accessible through more affordable accommodations that also create an awesome customer experience with minimal intervention with Mother Nature, so that we preserve the people and the planet and help provide a really awesome experience for glamping ventures and all of our guests. We also have a venture in Joshua Tree, California. So if you're ever headed out there, please let us know and come visit us at Joshua Tree Lake RV Park. So let's kick off today's webinar. Let's first turn it on over to our panelists for an introduction. Let's start with Krista Vasson from Hipcamp to go ahead and take the mic from here.
Thanks, Jeff. It's really great to be here. Kristen Vasson. I'm based out of Charlottesville, Virginia. I've been with Hipcamp for about 4 years now, which is really hard to believe. And I currently head up partnerships for Hipcamp. So I sit kind of right in the middle of the marketplace, which is an awesome role to be in, since I get to work on all of the exciting partnerships that we flex across our brand. So you've probably seen some of the things we've done with REI, All Trails, Subaru. And then I also get to work with awesome partners like ResNexus, who have these large ecosystems of operators that are really looking for a channel that can help them drive demand. And so we've been fortunate to partner with ResNexus for the last 3 years, and it's just been an awesome ride. A little bit about Hipcamp, though, for anyone who's still kind of getting to know us. We are an organization with over 500,000 campsites across the US. We've facilitated just over 3.5 million nights under the stars. Our community is primarily millennials and Gen Z. So I'd say we're right now at about 7 million campers. So for any operators here really looking to connect with folks who are mobile first, they're really tech savvy, they're doing a lot of things out of pocket, and they're really looking to expand, where they get to go camping. Hipcamp's just a really great resource for bringing net new people to your parks. And so we're excited to explore the conversation today. I'll hand it over to you, David.
Yeah, hi, I'm David Mayfield with ResNexus. ResNexus has been around for about 21 years now. I've been with ResNexus for 17 of those years. And I've personally worked with about 2,200 unique properties, and that's the space we're really in. We've got about 4,500 properties. We do about 7,000 reservations per day through our system. And I just love working with our customers, feel like a consultant helping properties of all sizes. We've noticed that this outdoor space is just blowing up and there's just a lot of needs. And that's why we're excited about our connections with Hipcamp as well. And using new technologies and innovations uh, and just working with the customers, helping them go from either a brand new property and becoming successful, or someone who's taking over a property and just needs some help. We have a lot of different products to help out with websites, reservation system, of course, marketing, and other things like that. Back to you, Jeff.
Perfect. David, thank you. Kristen, thank you. Let's turn it over to Peter for a quick introduction of yourself too, so everyone knows who you are.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. Excited to be here. My name is Peter. My wife and I own and operate three campground RV parks across the state of California. We've jumped in with both feet about 4 years ago. So we had never been in the space before that. We've learned a lot along the way. And, I think we're excited just to kind of share our story a little bit about how we use ResNexus, how it's really helped us across the portfolio of the parks, and then how we've jumped in with Hipcamp there as well. So just, yeah, thanks for letting us be here.
Perfect. Well, welcome, Peter. You've got a hell of a success story, which we'll be touching on more. And just also a point of reference to all of us have sort of lived and breathed this industry for quite some time from varying standpoints. And I think that's what makes today's panel so interesting. I myself and Doug, like I said, have our venture in Joshua Tree. We actually work both with Hipcamp and ResNexus, and the combined experience has really allowed our venture to get up off the ground from about 18 months ago to now and continue to thrive. But I'm also excited to learn personally from Peter because I wish we were able to achieve his results. So onward and upward from here. But now we're into September. It's September 9th. Kids are back in school. We're eyeing fall is around the corner. Summer is over. For many markets across the US, peak season is coming to a close. So for many of us, we have to start thinking about what's ahead, what's going to happen November, December, January, because winter is coming, whether we like it or not, especially for our northern operators. And so what are we going to do this year is a question that many of us have to ask ourselves. And do we just keep doing what we've always done? Hopefully not. Hopefully we can move forward, learn from Peter, learn from Kristen, and learn from David to do something new and unique to really not just do what we've always done, but thrive through winter and set ourselves up for greater success into the spring. To put you into this mindset, it's shoulder season and it's time, for all of us to enable our OTA connections like Hipcamp so that we have more connections with ResNexus, excuse me, and our PMS to help thrive and drive our business. And so I'll really be touching on this more. We'll be touching on this more with the team. As we get into this, I'd really love to hear what our team is thinking because all of us have really gone through peak season. There's a lot of takeaways. And as we take our collective takeaways, I think this is an opportunity for all of our viewers to learn. So I want to follow the same order and turn it back to Kristen. What have you been observing? What are some trends that are going on? What might be some takeaways that our viewers could hear?
Well, this is one of my favorite times of year, as I've come to learn from working in the campground industry, since it's like we're through Labor Day and now it's this time for us to all come together. So event season is upon us, glamping show, oh hi, like these are all kind of moments where we get to come together and share these learnings. I'd say for us though, there were a lot of just macro trends that were pretty consistent with the year prior. For Hipcamp specifically, we've continued to see app downloads just increasing year over year. This year, we grew by 30%. We've also seen just overall searches to Hipcamp growing by 20%. So just kind of a shift in folks leaning more on mobile technology. Our actual mobile bookings exceeded desktop bookings again this year. Again, a sign that like folks are probably on the road, out of pocket, looking for something this weekend or pretty last minute. We tend to see, or we've seen this year, bookings typically made and then completed within 72 hours of the reservation window. So there's a lot of folks that are just like looking for that, like what's available now. Operators have come back and reported to us as well that 98% of reservations that they're getting from Hipcamp are from net new people to their community, which I think just shows this like growing interest in camping and getting outside from this younger demographic that we're continuing to kind of feed into the marketplace. And then I think the last exciting thing is that the RV kind of reservations are outpacing tent sites. So if you're an operator and you accommodate RVs, that's good news for you because we're seeing a lot more of the like folks on wheels coming through the platform looking for accommodations through Hipcamp.
Thanks,
Back
Kristen.
to you, Jeff.
David,
Yeah.
how about yourself? What are you seeing for the ResNexus world and some of the trends or takeaways this year so far?
Yeah, I do agree with Kristen. This is a great time of year. It's time to, things are settling down just a little bit. And I know that a lot of my park owners have been just crazy busy and they've probably usually they've neglected a few things, making sure that they've got their reviews up, focused on those types of things, work with our team on emails that can direct some of those reviews to Hipcamp and build that up. That's so important. It's also a great time to work on your email marketing, go over your reports, see where you're pacing. We're at the end of the year, so you need to make sure that you're outpacing this year compared to last year. If you are a park that shuts down and are seasonal, then it's always good to make sure you've got your drip campaign through your emails and things like that, and that you're just ready for January, February, as that's when we see a ton of online reservations come through and book for the rest of next year. And really just planning that out, fine tuning some things that you have. Also, a great time to refresh some of your photos and things like that. I can't stress photos enough. We might go into that a little bit more a little bit later. And we all know that old saying, a photo is worth 1,000 bookings, right?
Well said. Peter, how about yourself? Obviously, the resident operator here. Winter's coming from NorCal. What are some of the takeaways from this year so far?
Yeah, it's been an interesting season, and I think I echo Kristen and David when coming into the fall. We haven't quite taken a breath yet, but we're looking forward to it. It's been a busy summer, that's for sure. It's kind of tough as I haven't really been able to really look at all of the reports yet, but we kind of have mixed results for 25. We did see a lot more last minute bookings come in. I know that going into some of our holidays, we were a little concerned like a week prior, and then we saw a flood come in right at the last minute. We also saw some more people that were actively, either asking for discounts or searching for discounts. So we saw kind of that trend too. Overall, I think our nightly RV bookings are going to be down from a volume perspective versus 2024. But what we still saw was very good peak holiday demand for those sites. Our cabins and our glamping units did very well this year. And then our full season bookings remain very strong. So yeah, looking forward to taking a little breather here. We closed down 2 of the 3 parks in October for the winter. And then after that, we really get to start to work on the business instead of just reacting to what's in front of us. So that's what I really like about winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Doug and I, obviously, we have our venture in Joshua Tree. So for us, we actually love this time of year because the last few months it's just been cooking out there at 100 plus degrees. So we're actually, as are many of those, arid or semi-arid climates, looking forward to the next few months and some cool weather. As a trend we've seen that I'm curious if others have seen too, or we could come back to is there is definitely an increased price sensitivity. And people are looking for more reasons or bundling or packaging to get motivated and to buy. And certainly we're seeing events and traffic building around events as a big motivating factor, which has been really interesting in the Joshua Tree market and I think surrounding markets too. So on our property, there's music festivals, and the surge of customers the last couple of years has really been on an upward trend, including this most recent one coming in at Joshua Tree Lake Music Fest. Excuse me, Joshua Tree Music Fest. But it's interesting to see that people are a little bit more conscientious of their spend. They need more motivation. They look for sort of like, what am I going to build this trip around? And they need to be reminded of that experience to motivate them to open their pocketbook. But Peter, I think you've probably lived this a lot. And I think this is a great opportunity to turn into Peter's world and kind of set the stage so that everyone kind of understands where Peter's been. Because for all intents and purposes, Peter, you are a success story. You came into this, you've kind of you and your wife have truly gone through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get your first property up off the ground. It took a little work, rework before you really found the tools of ResNexus as a hit camp and continue to really add fuel to the fire and grow. And now you're at 3 properties, which is pretty neat. So I really think let's set the context for everyone here who's listening, so people could better understand. Give us a little bit of the magnitude of your journey and some quick fundamentals about where you started in 2021 and where you are now.
Sure, sure. So yeah, we acquired Paradise Shores in August of 21, and we acquired it from some operators who were doing a good job. So it was, fairly strong operations before. They had done a great job with the space and really laying it out well. It has a community kitchen and a community fire ring and cute bathrooms, and they had done a pretty good job with laying out the park and getting some good photos and marketing of it. What we saw coming in was that there was some opportunities on the operations side to improve some of the back and forth in the booking process, and then also just the capture rate. And to kind of give you an example there, the systems that were in place at the time, they had a website, they had a management software system, and then they had 2 marketing channels. And so at any point, if someone made a reservation, whether it was on the phone or online through one of the marketing channels, wherever the reservation came in, someone then had to go update the other 3 sites. Just imagine that that's just one booking, right? People make changes all the time. So any change, you then have to go update the 3. And so they were really had one person focused on that, a remote reservation agent. That's all she did. And they had turned off the phones because it was so challenging to just do this. So they only took online reservations, which excluded a good chunk of the market, right? Those who weren't tech savvy at the time enough they could do it. So that was, our opportunity as we saw on the back end that we could do better with technology. That's where, I thought that I could bring some benefit there. And, since we took over and we've been operating that property now for a couple of full seasons, we've been able to grow revenue overall by close to 36%. That's a little over 10% annually. Along that time, we were trying to reduce expenses. We've been able to reduce them about 5% over that time. It would have been a lot more had insurance not gobbled up quite a bit. I think our insurance has gone up 300% or more since we first acquired the property, which I didn't have in my plan. I don't know that anyone did. But all that kind of leads to, we had good net income growth and we almost doubled our profit margin from the first year of operation. And I think a lot of that has to do with some of the efficiencies that we've put in on the back end.
I think it's amazing. And it sounds like the insurers are really the big winners for all of us. It definitely have gone up across the board industry wide. And I think it's just really fascinating to see your story, but obviously you only got into this a few years ago. Why? Why did you ever get into the crazy, often challenging, aspirational business of outdoor hospitality and glamping?
It's a great question. And I've had an interesting career. I started, my father was a real estate appraiser, and so I started working for him in high school, and then went to school and studied economics, and almost did a dual major in economics and computer science, but that was way too much coursework. So I just did economics, and got out and continued appraising, set up my own shop, did residential for a while, and then eventually started doing commercial appraisal for a while. And then, during that time, I had done some real estate investing, but just small stuff, just residential units, single families, one multi, one small, two unit. And then, life got busy. We started raising a family. We focused on that. I transitioned from being an appraiser over to the corporate world through a couple of startups, and then with some more established firms later on. And as things went along, my wife, Kate, she also found her way when she went back to work. She started as a property manager and really shined as a commercial property manager. And so she kind of found her calling there. And so a couple of years ago, we decided to get back into real estate for a like more retirement planning. And we wanted to do things on a little bit larger scale. Weren't really interested in single family residences or multis or anything like that. Started looking around, saw the trends with RVs, in 2018, 2019. Started looking at RV storage, took some swings and misses there. And then we finally found an RV park, and started looking at RV parks, with a pretty keen eye, and saw that it was more than just an investment. It was, a business, right? And so I liked that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And we finally found Paradise Shores, which is in the Eastern Sierra. And so a couple of things aligned. I'm a backcountry skier, and I've been skiing down in the Eastern Sierras for 30 years now. And so when we found Paradise Shores, it was in Bridgeport, California, which I'm really familiar with. And so I said, hey, we need to jump in the car and go see this place now. We went down there. It was February. Got out of the car. Kate was like, wow, it's cold. And I'm like, yeah, it's winter, but it's, a seasonal campground. And we fell in love with the place right away. The views there are pretty amazing. So we put an offer in and got lucky enough to secure it. And that's kind of how we got started.
I love that.
Peter, is that when you shifted to ResNexus for Paradise Shores?
No, when we came in, I knew that, during escrow, I knew that we wanted to, right? But not having operated a campground or an RV park before, I didn't want to make any changes the first couple of months because I didn't know what I was doing, to be quite frank, right? And so we wanted to learn the systems and processes and just how to operate the place first before we made any big changes, and then we could figure it out. And so we actually didn't change to ResNexus until I think the fall of 22. And that's when we made the switch.
Yeah, I love working with property owners like you that haven't, they're brand new to the industry, and they're just looking for help and need that little bit of consulting. And it's really exciting to see you guys do so well. How did you find the setup process and some of the training processes that we went through with you guys?
Well, it was probably, going into the next year of operations in 22 is when we acquired our second campground. And that, really led us to ResNexus. In the winter of 21, I was researching like, hey, I think I had it narrowed down to like two front runners on the software, you guys and I forget who else at this point. But when we acquired Camp Almanor, they have 7 cabins there that are more like a nightly hotel stay, right? And the prior owner there was using ResNexus. So I got an opportunity to have like a hands-on view of how it worked. And it was like in the first week where I was like, this will work very well. This will certainly help us at Paradise Shores. And what really sealed the deal was over that summer, as we had questions on how to use the system, the support we got was awesome. The Derek is one of our I think you guys call him coaches now, but he was a white glove specialist at the time. And he just answered all of our questions. I know that probably we used a lot of his time, but he was super helpful along the way. So that really like solidified it for us. And when we made the switch over in the fall of 22 for Paradise Shores, I planned for like a big heavy lift to get it up and off the ground, and it wasn't, as bad as I thought. Certainly, there's some setup, right? You're going to have to go through it, but there was a lot of help along the way, from how to configure pricing to how to set up minimums, and we got it live. It wasn't. I don't think it was like. To me, it's one of those things where we started, but it wasn't where I wanted the setup to be. But working on it for over time, it's like an ongoing process. Like you're always working on it to make it better. And each year, we put that effort back in. Usually in the winter when we have some time to do it. But the initial setup wasn't all that bad. I guess it depends on the individual property, like how many different sites you have and that sort of stuff. And if you have a lot of different classes of units. But Paradise Shores, we have 40 to 45 units. We have 3 or 4 different classes. So we have 7 glamping RVs. We have 1 mobile home that we rent out year round. We have 30 RV sites and 4 tent sites. So we had a bit of everything there. And working through all of that setup, I wouldn't say it was too challenging. It certainly it takes attention to detail. I will say that. But with good help, it was pretty manageable.
Peter, it sounds like you. Oh,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
thanks, David. I was just going to ask you about, so because you mentioned having like basically inherited this existing operation. So I'd love to learn a little bit about like, I think you guys, Paradise Shores, for the previous owners were on Hipcamp. So what was that transition like for you? Just the handoff from previous owners to you with your listing on Hipcamp. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and that's how we got introduced to Hipcamp. Was the prior owners at Paradise Shores had the listing there. They'd had it for a while, I believe. I haven't been able to find how far back it goes, but they'd been on there for a while. It was becoming tough to manage though because it was disconnected, right? So we couldn't respond to the inquiries in time to get the bookings. And it really wasn't being leveraged that well. So when we got onto ResNexus, I want to say it was like we landed on ResNexus in fall of 22, and I think it was a couple months later that Hipcamp integrated with ResNexus right off the bat. And so we were like, I kind of just raised my hand. I was like, anyone at Hipcamp, like I'd love to be the first. Like we really want to do this. And so we jumped right in, and I think we got the tent sites on there first. And then later on, we got the RV sites on there and the glamping units. The first year that we did the connection with ResNexus and Hipcamp, we doubled our revenue on Hipcamp from the prior year. So it really paid off in just ease of use, being able to capture those bookings, which was the challenge, just because we didn't have enough time to get to the inquiries quick enough.
Yeah, I mean, I had a knot in my stomach when you mentioned having had to count just to mitigate like all of the different mods and cancellations. And I'm assuming all of that went away once you had like the systems plugged in. So like ResNexus with Hipcamp, you don't have that function anymore.
Yeah, so it's great now. We set pricing in ResNexus and it pushes it everywhere, so it updates it on Hipcamp. We set minimums, or if we have an availability, we set that on ResNexus and it pushes there. And then if someone books with us through Hipcamp, it updates the ResNexus platform, and then updates everywhere else, so it flows back and forth seamlessly, which is amazing. It really took out all of that back and forth, and it's allowed us to refocus that resource on being able to answer the phone and capture bookings, instead of just doing tedious, data entry across systems.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Curious if you have any like anecdotal comments on like hip campers, like who's coming to your property from our platform? How do those stays typically go for you?
um, I remember and maybe here I'll pivot towards Shelter Cove, which is our most recent acquisition, and we purchased that in December of 23. And the prior owner there um, hadn't done a stitch of marketing. He'd owned the property for 30 years. Technology was very far from his comfort. And so our plan immediately there was ResNexus and Hipcamp. And so like we went into that knowing that that was the first thing we were going to do. So we got live with Hipcamp in January of 24. I think it's about Shelter Cove is a little over 100 sites, and we were able to get live on Hipcamp within 2 weeks. And we got our first booking a week later, which blew my mind. Quite frankly, it was the winter. I was not expecting traction to happen there until the spring. But a week later, we got our first hip camper. And we went out and met them, and they were in a van, and they were really excited on the place. I think Hip Camp, what we've seen is a little bit of a younger demographic, folks that are a little bit more adventurous, and it's a really cool demographic, because they're interested in exploring the area. Uh, they're not just there to plug in and watch TV inside their RV or something like that. It's definitely folks that are active, and that's how our three properties are well positioned for that. It's the crowd the demographic that we're looking to attract, is the people who want to explore and get outside, and so it plays really well there. And at Shelter Cove, I think we've been live for a little over 18 months, and it's definitely Hipcamp is our main channel partner there, and we've been able to capture a ton of really positive reviews through the platform, which has been great.
Yeah, and I'd love to come back to that thread just because I know how important reviews are for helping your listing and bringing new campers in. I do want to just call out like how beautiful your photography is across both Shelter Cove and Paradise
Hmm.
Shores. And this for us is probably the most commonly asked question of Hipcamp. When folks get started, they enable that connection for Hipcamp. It's like, help me get bookings right away. And I'd be curious for your answer, Peter, of like, what is that magic recipe of like, how did you get that booking within a week of going live? I know from our perspective, we typically say like, make sure that you've got incredible pictures that you can highlight for users to see. That's what our community is going to be most engaged with. And then there's this other piece around reviews that I want to kind of explore a little bit more with you. But tell us about your process for just making sure that like how your listing appears for both properties is like at that kind of high bar that you would need to appear in search results at the top.
Yeah, and I would say the photos are very important, right? Quality photos are very important, but if you don't have them, don't let it hold you back. Start with what you have and improve over time. As I look at our Shelter Cove site, like I've got a handful of photos that I want to get up on Hipcamp and on our website this winter. I haven't had the opportunity to do it, but I want to keep adding to it. So it's to me, it's kind of a process that's never done. You want to keep those photos fresh and updated, and try and show some of the not just the camping, but also like what's in the area, so that people can understand like what the activities are as well. You certainly want to be able to give folks an idea of what the campsites look like, or if you have a glamping unit, like interior photos of the glamping unit is very key. A lot of people, they might be foreigners that don't read English. They'll look at the photo and they'll say, "Hey, it has a double bed. It has, a kitchen," they can see all of that, which is terrific. Um, you know, Detail photos is huge, and if you're not a good photographer, hire one. That's what we
Mhm.
did at Camp Almanor. I tried, I couldn't get the good photos in there, so we hired a photographer for Camp Almanor. Just uh, keep them fresh and keep them updated. Don't be afraid to start with what you have, though. And even if it's just, you with your phone out there trying to get the best shots you can, get them, get it live, and then add to them. We certainly saw a big spike in our cabin reservations at Camp Almanor when we did the professional photos. So we had gotten our photos up there, we used them, we'd gotten reservations going, and it helped. And then as soon as we got the professional photos up, we did see a big jump, because people can then just see the quality and see all the details. And so
Yeah, love
I think
that.
that's my
And I
advice
know
for photos is keep at it.
we've had at HipCamp a professional photography program for some time, which I know is something that I would imagine you or the previous owners might have leveraged. I actually recognize one of my colleagues in the Paradise Shores photos, so I'm pretty sure we tagged you guys. But I can say for anyone listening that, to Peter's point, like this is the one thing that not only impacts your getting that first booking, but I think it's a good segue into just reviews, right? Because for our algorithm, we tend to rank you in Hipcamp and what appears first based on who's got the most and best reviews. So I'd love to talk through that with you a little bit, Peter. Like, what's been your strategy there? How does one like kind of start to amass the kind of quality reviews you have?
It's interesting. The reviews can make or break you, and we see it across everywhere on the web, right? And it's not easy. I will tell you that much. On one hand, you're beholden to the review, but on the other hand, like I look at it as if you do a good job, the reviews come, right? Um, it's one thing to have great use of space at your place. It's another to set expectations correctly in your descriptions and in your photos, so that people aren't caught off guard when they get there. But it's another to deliver a good experience, right? And so, we remind ourselves daily that we're in the hospitality business, and that people that are coming to our campgrounds, like this is their vacation, for a lot of folks. For other folks, this might just be the part of an exploration that they're doing, but it's about the experience that they have at our property, that is going to either get you a good review, or in the scenario where their experience is less than ideal, could earn you a negative review. And so we've always been really keen to the reviews. It was kind of, as we were not only like looking to get into the business, like part of my acquisition due diligence that I do is I look at the reviews that are online of the properties, and I see, what the guests are saying about the place, right? So that was part of my due diligence that I did in looking at the places. Um, and so like they're red, right? How we've done it, one of the ways that we've started to get a lot more reviews recently is we're leveraging ResNexus's thank you letters. And so in the thank you letter, we say, hey, if you've had a great time, like we obviously say thank you first, right? And then below that, we say like, hey, if you've had a great time, we'd appreciate if you let others know and give them a link to our review. And then if they haven't had, if something hasn't gone right, we give them, a direct line or an email to reach out to us to let us know like how we can try and make things right. And that also helps with correcting some stuff before someone just, fires off a one-star review that blows you up. We get those on
Yeah.
occasion too, right? It happens. And when it happens, you just kind of have to understand that, you know, that we're all humans. Things are not going to go perfect 100% of the time. And so it's how you respond to those that also shows everyone online, like, who you are as manager, owner, operator, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, something that we've seen works well also is just communication. Like two of the things that I think guests tend to report back to us on is the host was super communicative with me, and so that piece was there. And then also like just getting to talk to a real human when they get to their campground. That whether it's like a quick tour, a welcome chat, like if someone's there to create that human connection and even ask, would you mind leaving us a great review? I think those are like the little things that we've heard go a really long way. Within Hipcamp, there's like a chat feature that we sync with ResNexus. So any communication that you need to have with campers goes through. So, I know Peter, just from your knowing your story, that you also like really turned Shelter Cove around. It sounds like a business that you also inherited, and it was like not doing great with reviews, but just you by virtue of being an amazing operator were able to really transform its success in a matter of 12 to 16 months.
And you hit on a very good point, communication. And that's, where my wife shines. She does an amazing job there. We have another reservation agent that's remote, and Dawn Ann does a terrific job for us as well with communicating with the guests and setting expectations up front. And then if, anything pops up along the way, like we're always, always answering the phone, always, chatting to figure out like, what happened. Our camp hosts that are on site, we try and do our best with setting them up for success because they're often the ones that are face to face in front of our guests, and so supporting them well, and letting them know that like, hey, like we are shooting for a 5-star experience, like so that everyone on the team is aligned to having good, guest experiences at the property, right? That's what we're all about. And so we're looking for friendly folks that work with us, because a smile oftentimes will soften even, like a bad scenario. So that goes over a lot. And then, yes, just being able to answer the phone. That was one of the challenges that we had with Paradise Shores coming into it, is the phones were off. So we turned the phones on somewhere, 2 months into that second season. And it's really, really helped the business and really helped us grow.
So, Peter, you're hitting on all cylinders. It sounds like you're doing really good with some of your reputation management. What are you doing to convert that demand into more revenue? Are you using any yield management, revenue management techniques that are helping out?
Yeah, and we didn't start using those right away. The first year I set prices I kind of, wanted to learn everything else and just kind of leave it at that. But then I started to really look into the revenue or the pricing controls in ResNexus, and there's quite a bit of flexibility. And so now we have different pricing for what we call our early season and our late season versus our peak middle summer season. And then we also have different pricing for weekdays versus weekends because we see
That's great.
different demand there. If you look at the reporting in ResNexus, it's really eye-opening. You can get reports on what day of the week you're the fullest rate for your season, and you can slice and dice to your heart's content. And I'm a numbers guy. I like analytics, so like that really is great for me because it helps me set the strategy for pricing.
Yeah.
And then the past year, we've been playing with the dynamic pricing and the yield controls. And we have some rules running around, based off of occupancy, based off of time to reservation, whether or not
Yeah.
we will discount or increase prices. And so that's been helping to, I think, maximize revenue. It does make it a little bit challenging for some folks that are like, well, the price is never the same. You're like, well,
Right.
it's based on multiple factors, but from an operator's perspective, it makes a lot of sense as you get closer to being full to have prices going up because the stress on the campground between when you're 80% full and when you're 95% full is a lot different, right?
Yeah.
95% if everyone's plugged in, and especially if you have an older RV park like we do, you're taxing your electrical, or maybe if you're on septic, you're maybe taxing the septic system. And so it's as get over kind of some peak occupancy marks that it makes sense to increase those revenues, increase the prices. Likewise, the big thing that I learned in the hospitality business that I didn't know going in was all around like a night is you think of it like a disposable unit. Like if you don't rent out that site that night, it's gone forever. You never get an opportunity to
Right.
sell it back. It's not like a traditional business where you have a product on the shelf and you have an opportunity to sell that. Like the night is gone. So if you don't incentivize folks to get that night with
Yeah.
you some discounts or something like that,
Yeah.
it's gone forever.
Peter, you have a perishable product, right?
Yeah.
With an expiration date on it. And I'm so impressed and so happy to hear that you're using the revenue management techniques that ResNexus has to offer you. So many times I'm working with new property owners or property owners that, they've had the property for 20 years and they really are emotionally attached to their rates. And leaving a lot of money on the table when they do that. A lot of times I listen to these new property owners and again, existing property owners, and their biggest concern is occupancy, where occupancy shouldn't be your main focus, where revenue should be that main focus. Do you agree with that?
At the end of the day, you can say that there's a correlation between occupancy and revenue, but revenue is the mark where you make money, right? Like at the end of the day, like your profits are based off of your revenue, right? So it is about revenue generation and management. Now, I understand the hesitancy for pricing. It's something that I, spend a lot of time on. Um, we set our prices during the fall for the next year, and then I will be looking at it throughout the year as well to adjust. So it's not a set it and forget it mindset for me. It's something that I definitely look at because to your point around the hesitancy of changing prices, like um, a lot of it's experimentation. You just don't know. But there's good resources out there to learn about revenue management in the hospitality industry. I read a bunch of blogs. I read a book, and you try and learn like how to leverage it, and then the tools at ResNexus make it pretty easy. Writing the rules is not that hard, and if you need help, like um, your folks in the support certainly helped me understand, like, hey, here's a basic rule that you can start off with, right? Try that, and then you can learn from there.
Fantastic. I also see that we might want to meet you and I and talk about doing some upsells. Are you guys doing some upsells internally, some retail add-on items?
We haven't yet. Explored it with our Camp Almanor property. We had a guide that was doing kayak trips approach us, and we tried to put it together, but that ultimately didn't work. But so far, we haven't done any upselling with retail stuff.
I know you have an amazing conversion rate, and conversion rate's everything when it comes to an online reservation system. And that just simply means the ability that when somebody comes to the reservation system, they're completing and turning into a customer of yours. But yeah, add-ons and retail items can definitely help increase that rate as well, your conversion rate. How are you seeing or using any of our cart abandonment features?
I don't believe we're leveraging that either. So,
Okay.
like I said, there's always stuff to learn too, right? Um, and so, yeah, let's chat about that as well. And then I heard Kristen mention is the chat feature between Hipcamp and ResNexus. Is that a new feature as well? I've not heard of that, so I'd be interested to learn more there as well.
Yeah, like you, there's always more for us to develop and innovate and work with Kristen and her team to implement for you. I do believe that's in the work. Kristen, do you know where that's at? I haven't.
We can, yeah, I mean, it's possible to today direct chat with our campers through like a hip camp kind of chat feature.
Yeah.
So I'll probably just have to make sure I have all the right information about that, but I will, as we wrap up, share the like direct contact for our team. So if anyone here has questions, wants to stay connected with us on how to get the connection going and answer that question and any others that come up, we can do that, which might be a good segue to Jeff on the last kind of piece of this call for Q&A.
Yeah, I know we're racing towards the top of the hour here. And so if anyone does have questions, please drop those in. We'll be monitoring those. But as we really start to bring this together, you can kind of see that launching and growing anything in the world of outdoor hospitality is iterative. And I do think from personal experience, of experience of seeing a lot of people out there, that a lot of people think they have to do it alone. I think one of the biggest takeaways from a lot of this conversation is that when you find a great company like Hipcamp or ResNexus, you have an entire team, an army behind you, and it is their team, their insights, and their experience that's truly game changing. When you're able to find these good teams like you can, it they are able to take your good analog systems and convert them into really strong digital systems. And that really is what allows you to start gaining significant forms of efficiency and control over your business. As Peter mentioned, he can change one price and it goes out to all OTAs versus having to pay a full-time employee to manage all of that all the time. It's also a great opportunity to expose yourself to all kinds of new marketing capabilities to not just attract new customers, but to remind customers are out there. Because ultimately, there is a lot of question marks in terms of seasonality and economy and this and that. But at the end of the day, relationships and hospitality win the market. So really seeing those tools from Hipcamp and ResNexus as your way to not only start to connect, but to truly build, rich personal relationships with your customers is what's going to put you top of mind. And then leveraging follow-up, leveraging direct and targeted marketing, and utilizing all of the other features of ResNexus and Hipcamp to really stay top of mind, aware, fresh, unique, and interesting is what's going to keep that business really not just launching strong, but staying relevant and staying strong so that when customers year after year look to come back to XYZ destination, they're going to always be reminded of the good times they had with you, the relationship they have with you, and the reason they want to continue to support your business. And I think that's truly what differentiates the market in the world of hospitality is after all those relationships, because this is none other than a relationship business. So, it's been a really fascinating conversation, and I want to turn a bit to Q&A here. Um, I think we've got a few questions that have been coming in, some questions that we've seen, and I want to just turn to Peter for a quick one. When you came online, when you launched things, we love to hear kind of succinctly, when you came online with Hipcamp and ResNexus, what worked well and maybe what were some of the challenges that people should know about?
Um, with ResNexus, I think what worked really well was getting the online bookings integrated with our current website. It was super easy, right? There's a separate URL. You just hang that on a new tab or a button or however you want on your website. So it worked really easy. We were able to really quickly match the colors on that site, so it looked like it was just a very similar experience to being on our website. So I like that. Um, uh, with Hipcamp, I think one of the things that we liked, but we had to adjust to, was the notion of people picking their sites at Paradise Shores because it's an older camp. In the RV side, we just gave them the option to get a generic site. And then we place them based off of how long their vehicle is or what their vehicle type is. And that gives us some flexibility in moving folks around. But with Hipcamp, they get to choose their own site, right? And so, we had to learn a little bit there, but we found that at Shelter Cove, actually, that feature really works well for us. And so, because it's a easier park, a lot of the sites are more uniform. So we really like that. That actually solved a lot of some of our logistical Tetrising that we do in moving people around there. And so I think those are kind of just top two off of my head.
Right on. That sounds great. Kristen, I think you wanted to touch on that as well.
Yeah, I think we get a lot of questions about like what makes a good fit for hip camp. And I think the answer is that really like anything that kind of puts the camper or sorry, the guest in nature. We have everything from tents, but also RV sites and structures on the platform. I hate to admit it, but I tend to be more of the structure type myself. So I think you're going to see folks coming to Hip Camp that like to stay or like to kind of get outside at least 5 times a year. And this season, I've done everything from stayed in a tiny home with sheets that a host changed for me to gone into like backcountry of Glacier National Park. So you've got people that are looking to kind of mix up the types of stays that they have throughout the season. So that's just a good way to think about of it is like diversify your portfolio of options and you'll be amazed at the type of demand that you see.
Yeah, well said. In our venture in Joshua Tree, our cabins, and we are embedded with a 40-acre RV park and campground that's been around for 25 years. To give an idea, when we turned on, Hip Camp through ResNexus, it was not just an immediate pop, but it continued to build over and over. And so, us through our cabins, through RV sites, and through camp have really benefited from these tools significantly. And I know Peter has as well. It is no Hip Camp, despite its name, is really a destination for all things glamping, which is really neat. And embedded with ResNex has become that powerful relationship management tool, which can't emphasize enough. I am curious too. We did have a couple questions regarding pitfalls. And I do think this is one. It's always great to know what people did do well, but I think we always learn by making mistakes. And it's always important to share those. So hopefully our viewers will know what are maybe some pitfalls and mistakes to keep an eye on. So, Peter, is there anything in your mind through your experience with ResNexus or HipCamp that people should really be aware of as they look to launch and or grow their business?
Um, I'll say like probably just the biggest thing is like don't be afraid to change. It's and then like kind of combined with that, I struggle with this a lot is the perfectionist mindset, wanting things to be perfect before you go live. Like it's a continual process my dad always talked about it as like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. They would start painting it and they'd finish and they just have to paint it again right away after they'd finish, right? So, like we're always trying to work on the business, and we do that at different times of the year. But when you get, a good photo, like then work to get it live. It doesn't have to be perfect to start. So allow yourself the notion that sometimes progress is better than perfection. I had another manager tell me that, and that kind of stuck in my head from way back when. So keep moving forward.
I love that. It's don't let great be the enemy of good. Just keep moving forward, like you said. I also heard you say something that I think was quite interesting in that, in this day and age, we can't just set it and forget it. You reference that with content, you reference that with relationship management, you reference that with also pricing too. And I think that's a really important note to take away that some people become uh, complacent. They put it and be like, ta-da, work's done. But, constantly revisiting it, I think is important. Is there anything that you do there that's part of a system, a process, quarterly, annually that you do?
Um, I wish it was more systematized. I do. I like to be planful and I like things to happen to be there. During the summer we're so busy that we're certainly more reactive. And then over the winter we get time to plan and that sort of stuff. I do hold myself to doing, I do all the reporting on the back end. So I do hold myself to doing monthly reporting, making sure that happens. So I'm seeing those trends month over month. That helps me, once a month at least think about strategy. And then, we meet regularly with all of our team members weekly to go over things. And so, we're constantly getting reminders from them of things that we can do to either improve or to handle situations that pop up. And probably the big thing there is I like to be able to fix things one time and fix them for the good so that I'm not having to do it again. So we try to put in strategic, whatever problem we're working to resolve, whether it be maintenance or whether it be an operations or a guest interaction thing. We try and put something in place that's going to solve the challenge for the long term, not just put a band-aid on it.
I love that. Yeah, thinking long term. It's fascinating because I think when we boil it all down, we are in the world of hospitality, and at the end of the day, so much of this too is people. How are we, ladies and gentlemen, treating other ladies and gentlemen? To steal a quote from Ritz Carlton, and in your world, this relationship management, the prompting of guest reviews, the sharing and celebrating of guest content is really what brings it back to the personalization of this all. In the beauty of this industry, there's so much heart, there's so much soul, there's so much story in every property. I know even just some of the prep question or conversations all of us have had. We've learned so much about our travels, the things we like, the things we've done from Kristen's travels to David's, motorcycle rides or former motorcycle rides. And of course, Peter, your I know pretty incredible adventures throughout mountain biking and adventure racing. And this is what makes every property so truly unique is because the lifeblood of each one of us runs through the properties and the systems and the people. And so I think the more we can personify our properties to represent us and our places, and the more we can stay just human beings, taking care of other human beings, it really is a beautiful takeaway that I think Peter, his wife, and his team have really done, and have certainly achieved a lot of that. So as I know we're already over time here, I do want everyone to kind of quick mention, glamping shows coming up. Curious who's going to be there and any other takeaways you guys have. Kristen, you want to take the floor?
Yeah, I won't be at Glamping Show personally, but we have two awesome teammates who will be there. If you do have any questions for us coming out of this, I think Gavin posted it in the chat, but Alexander at Hipcamp is your guy. Some of you work closely with him already. He'll be your kind of white glove getting you onto the platform contact. And I'll also be at Ojai. I will be there. I think it's in Lexington this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing the team there is a rumored like big, what is it, David? The big like truck
The
that you guys
Sherpa.
have
Those
it.
Sherps,
The
yeah,
sh
here.
the
Can,
Sherpa.
can you see a picture of them now?
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
This
we're
is
will
gonna
be
be.
I'm
that's
sad to be
David's
missing
ride.
this. I have personally ridden in this. Make sure you put your seatbelt on. I think this, will you guys have it at glamping show this year?
We're gonna bring one of those this year. In the past, we've brought two of them, but this year it's just gonna work out
Okay.
to bring the one. So, but
All
we're excited
right.
for that show as well.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a
I'll
pretty
give
awesome
it.
experience. And David, so you guys are going to be at the show as well, right?
Yeah, we're gonna be at the Denver show. We're also gonna be in Kentucky. So, love to see people come swing by and love to go through and see if there's anything we do to help our existing customers or customers that are just looking for better solutions.
Amazing.
Yeah, and
It's going to be a fun show.
I think our schedule opened up as well, so I think we're going to be there at least for a day is what we're trying
Great.
to prepare for. So
All right. Love that. We get the whole panel there. All right, Kristen, we got to work on your ticket now. No, I really appreciate everyone's time and attention. Gavin, I'll turn to you to the final word for what the follow-up's going to be here, because I know we weren't able to address everyone's question. But Gavin, I'll turn to you for what viewers can expect and those who may be catching us on a replay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, for anyone who didn't get your questions answered, be sure to reach out to us directly. Alexander at hipcamp.com for any Hipcamp questions. For ResNexus, you can reach out to support or sales at resnexus.com. And then what's the best way for them to get in touch with Hostel Cubed as well, Jeff?
Yeah, we'll share that as well in a follow-up. I think we'll do a follow-up email.
Yeah.
We'll share our contact info for me and Doug, as well as a little special offer we have for people out there.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll send a follow-up email with all those details, and it'll also have the recording to this webinar in case you weren't able to watch the whole thing. That'll be available as video on demand as well. So, all right, I think that about wraps us up, unless there's any other final words.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Great
Thank you.
thanks for
discussion.
having me
Have a
on.
great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.